What's good, family? KO here, and doing another interview in our series here, all about masculine and feminine dynamics, creativity, freedom, spirituality, all the things. And today I'm bringing you none other than Adam Roa, the legend. Many of you will know Adam Roa from his show, The Art of Choosing Love, and he also had a viral poem that went out all over the internet. You are who you've been looking for. And Adam is a dear brother and a very deep thinker, an epic friend who is an artist, coach, and poet. And he has a lot of amazing things to say about many topics. We're definitely going to cover some dating today, other stuff. So if you're jumping in, type in the comments where you're tuning in from. And if you're watching this later, type in replay. There he is. What's good, brother?
What's good? What's good?
What's life like in the California dream?
You haven't seen my house, huh?
No.
Bro, I'm living in this castle out here. We got a beautiful day in Laguna. I don't know if you were able to see it.
Nice.
Did you freeze? Where are you at?
You're getting like a lot of nature there, huh?
Yeah, I got the ocean outside. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't tell if you're freezing or I'm freezing. Where are you at?
You're getting fuzzy, but I can still hear you and see you. Can you hear me? Am I not frozen?
You're not frozen. Are we delayed? Is there like a delay, or does this seem normal speed?
There might be a delay. I don't know.
Okay. Roll with it. You sound good now. I'm out here in Laguna Beach, bro, and yeah, I'm looking out at the ocean. I don't know the next time you're ever going to be in this area, but I'd love to have you while I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is possible towards the end of the year, so I'd love to check it out. And I always love Laguna. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but yeah, California, man, it's so amazing. And yeah, if you watch the news, it seems like California is kind of going under in the culture warfare.
Yeah. Bro, I never thought that I would come back to California, to be honest. I wasn't thinking that would be the case, but here I am. You know, the universe had other plans, so to speak.
Right on. Well, bro, I mean, I would love to go into multiple topics for you and just some kind of opening questions here. One is like, what are you working on right now? Because I mean, you're one of the most creative people I know. I feel like you're always on some new shit. What's like the most exciting creative thing you're building right now or making?
Yeah, right now it's about freaking time. I'm about to launch my course called The Art of Breaking Up.
Right.
So I'm actually going to finally be releasing something that is meant to help people through the breakup process. And you know, I did not want to do that for a long time, Kev, because I feel as if I worked so hard to get out of that energy. And quite honestly, you and I developed a much closer relationship when I was in that process, like the process, the breakup process. And so I didn't want to go back into it, but there have been so many people reaching out to me for help. A lot of people going through breakups. I'd be curious for those of you in the comments, how many of you know someone or are that person who's going through a breakup? And that's like the big project that I have coming out right now.
Is there a market for that? I don't know if I've ever seen a course on that. I mean, I've seen conscious uncoupling. There's that book and there's a few things around that, but nothing around breakups.
Yeah, there are some, but what I've found more than anything with it, and this might be everything in our coaching industry, is that most of the breakup courses that I was able to see have been people just regurgitating a bunch of like exercises to do. You know what I mean? Like, here's a bunch of things to do and just go and do them. And I feel anyone can do that. If you're a good marketer and if you're charismatic, you make some videos and whatever. But I think that what I like to bring to things is helping people see it through a different perspective in general, because I think it's the perspective shift that's ultimately going to lead to a true shift, not just doing the exercises. And so I'm excited to offer a course that has the exercises that you can do, but also the perspective shifts that are going to turn your breakup into beauty ultimately.
Right. I love that.
That's what I appreciate about you and what you're doing as well, is you're like me. You and I, at the end of the day, we're philosophers, just as much as, and so we're sitting in the philosophy of whatever it is and doing our best to give people a real different perspective.
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately what's going to help people change the most, because you can do all the practices, you can, go through the healing, you can hire someone to help you heal. It's all amazing. But if you don't shift your worldview and if you don't grow on the consciousness level, you'll kind of get stuck at this plateau. And I know I've been stuck at that plateau after a breakup. And that was one of the most formative things for me, was having big breakups that kind of like flatlined me for months. And those were huge growth spurts, right? Because after a plateau, you can get this huge like come up. And I think a lot of people, I mean, certainly we talked about on your podcast, but a lot of people right now are breaking up. I think this year I've seen more than in the previous years, if I had to quantify them, right? And a lot of people that were in long-term partnerships in the community, I think, broke up this year. And I'm curious why you think that is, or what you've noticed in like your tribe there, or people you're like really tracking and close to.
I think that there's a big change. I'm typing in right now to let people know that we did a deep dive podcast. So that just came last week. That is fire, bro. It's so good.
I love it.
For those people who don't know, Kevin and I did a podcast, my podcast called The Deep Dive. And it was all about, has spirituality ruined romantic partnership? And so this is a continuation of that. And I think go check out that podcast. But to your point, to your question, I believe that right now we're in a really heightened state of adjustment. A lot of people are accelerating the speed of their conscious evolution very quickly. And so when that happens, as you know, there's relationships can run their course more quickly because we're not relationships. I think this idea, and I'd be curious what you think actually, I think this idea of the soulmate, where I have a soulmate that I'm meant to be with for all of this life and all of my past lives and future lives and all of this stuff, creates this idea that the success of a soulmate relationship is longevity, right? And for me, if we were looking at a soul's perspective, the evolution of the soul would probably require lots of different partners to get lots of different perspectives and archetypes to alchemize with, and therefore become more evolved to see ourselves angles, right? And so if the speed of consciousness actually accelerating, then it would make sense to me that the relationships that we're experiencing are also going to be accelerating, meaning that you may need to, you may get all the juice out of it faster and then be complete.
Totally. Someone above said, a lot of people are getting together, I think this year too, which I think is also true. I've noticed that. I think you're one of the first people I heard this idea from, of the Slinky Effect, or like having a relationship where like one person experiences a lot of growth and it creates this kind of like whiplash, and the other person will jump ahead, and then, they have this kind of dynamic equilibrium. And I think a lot of partnerships, one partner is just going to outpace the other one in growth, especially if they've been together for a while and they've kind of been in a comfort zone. I've noticed this with clients too, where they kind of take for granted that, oh, we're just together forever, and they're not married, but they're in a long-term dating partnership, and one partner will just have a world-shaking upgrade, right? And usually that partner is the one that initiates the breakup. They're like, hey, this isn't working, etc. And that can be really devastating for the partner who maybe was taking the growth together for granted. And I see relationships as seasonal, right? I do believe that like when you're really compatible with someone, like you go in for the long haul, especially if you want to create a family. That's the main reason that a man and woman would create a really long-term container, obviously. But I think a lot of people in the conscious community, they have a personal massive growth. So just personally, they're like, all right, I'm completely changing and the partner doesn't even fit anymore. Or one of them has like a business or professional leap or a friend leap and they enter a new domain and the other partner just isn't fitting in that domain. And that can be really painful if you thought they were just going to kind of come with you. And I think a lot of it is just taking it for granted that you will grow together. And it takes a lot of like ninja skills to grow together, especially for the partner that's quote unquote like struggling to keep up with the growth pace, right?
Well, one of the biggest things, because someone just asked me what I think about marriage, right? And it's been very interesting, bro, to be out here in Laguna Beach where the demographic tends to skew older. I'm meeting a lot of men and women in their like 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I've had several conversations with successful men who are in marriages that they have kids, maybe teen kids, whatever, but they're not really, they may have other relationships, you know what I mean? Especially just sexually. And it's been interesting to see how common that is. I was actually having a conversation with someone today and he was saying, after 37 years together, just kind of grow apart in a lot of ways. Like their dynamic is different now. They still are on the life path together because they got kids together and all these things, but it's not the passionate, romantic, you're my person anymore. And I think this is a very common thing. And I know that I personally would like to believe that that's not going to be me. I'd like to believe that that's not going to be me because I have a consciousness and around what I want in partnership that I think a lot of these people I'm meeting, when they got into relationship, they didn't know this, right? They're looking for this sort of thing when they got into relationships. So that's a big impact. And I'm not sure how many of them actually have any understanding of how to pivot their relationship back into it, or how many of them actually want that. How many people actually, after 37 years of marriage, want to pivot their way back where their wife or husband is that person that they are growing with and whatever. The cool thing, Kev, is my parents, I took my parents through a mushroom ceremony. I don't know if I told you that.
Oh, wow. No, that's amazing.
Yo, my parents are in their 70s and they don't even drink. They don't even drink. They've never been high ever. And literally, I convinced them through, hey, like, I don't want you to die and not experience this. Like, come on. Right. What do you have? You're retired. And so I was able to take them through a ceremony. And what I've been able to see from my parents in their 70s is they're meeting each other now in ways and growing together in ways that I didn't even see when they were raising me.
Right.
And so that's giving me hope that it is possible because I would have never believed that. I never saw a romantic kiss between my parents growing up. Wow. I literally did not ever see them kiss romantically, maybe a peck, but never a romantic kiss. And so that was my model of relationship. And so I think that it is possible, but the real question is whether or not people want it. bro. And
Right.
this thing, when you say creativity and all of it, people have to be willing to put in the work. I'm tired of this idea that just because you set your intention that it's suddenly gonna happen. You need to set your intention, and then the universe is going to show you the action to take. But you got to
Right.
take action. And there are so many people who say they want to make more money and then they don't take the action. There are so many people who say they want more passion in their relationship, but they don't take the action. There's so many people who say they want to be more creative and they don't take the action. Like, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to put work into it, you're going to have the same life.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's natural law, the law of equivalent exchange. You know, you're gonna get what you give, and I think a lot of people, you know, they're willing to do that in their career. Maybe I see a lot of people that make leaps in their career. They're willing to put in the work, you know, in that domain. But in the relationship, I feel like and we talked about this on your podcast, the belief systems around relating and how it should be, especially in a long-term relationship or marriage, kind of like there's not a framework for that. Like don't have a lot of good role models. You know, our parents' generation, or even, you know, in media or in any of these celebrity types, you know, they're like on their fourth, fifth marriage, right? And you look at, like, you know, like Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing, and all, you know, there's not good templates out there of how a man and woman navigate long-term reality together. And this is such a disservice to the children, right? And like the next generation. And this shows me that, you know, I was doing a live last night with Jay Malik, and he was just talking about, like, you know, we think we're so advanced, but we're actually quite primitive. Like, we're primitive on the relating layer. And this is why I do this work, and I'm just geeking out on it because I want to figure it out for myself, obviously selfishly, but I also think that there's principles to polarized, deep love, primal love, that you can meet someone in your 70s that you've been with for the first time. Like, you think you know a person, but a human being is so deep. There's so many layers to the onion, right, of consciousness, that it's work to actually re-meet the person and re-date them. I think the art of dating, or the art of, you know, courtship, is one of the key arts here if you want to grow long term. And I'm curious, you know, as you're someone dating right now and kind of feeling out the sexual market, what are you like? Are you approaching that in a new way? Like, I know we talked a little bit about this from one of your recent experiences, but are you uncovering those beliefs in yourself while dating, and are you meeting them in other people?
Yeah, well, this is a good time, again, to remind people that Kevin and I did a deep dive podcast. Just go into the link in my bio after this, and you'll find link to the deep dive, because we talk a lot about dating in the spiritual community, the quote unquote conscious community. So we're not going to be able to dive as deep as that, but I've found this is what for me has been really interesting about dating, has been using dating as an intentional mechanism to evolve, to act. And so to have experiences with a woman that I go, wow, okay, this may not be my forever partnership. And that's a big deal to even know that and acknowledge that and be honest about that with someone, because I think a lot of people are dating from the perspective of the whole point of dating is to find the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And right. That used to be my approach, but that's not actually my approach anymore, because there will come a time where I'll meet someone where I go, okay, I want to have babies with you and buy a home and create a life long term together. Sure, absolutely. But that feels like more of a byproduct than the focus. I'm not dating in order to find that person, because in that mindset, everyone else that you meet that's not that person is suddenly not the point, right? And that's a disservice, and it doesn't even feel good. Like, why date at all? Versus for me, dating has become, okay, I see something in this particular person, this woman, that while she may not be my forever thing, I actually look at and go, wow, I love this about her. And she pulls me forward in this way. And she challenges me in this way. And I'm very excited to connect with her in this way. And as a result of that, we can create these containers where I've had very conscious, intentional conversations and said, hey, this is what I really love about you. This is what I'd like to create with you. This is where I think it will be mutually beneficial, where you'll be able to grow and I'll be able to grow based off of what I know you want to see. And that could be a lot of things, Kevin. So it could be, wow, you're someone who is deep into BDSM and kink, and I have no experience in that, and I would love to dive into that world and explore and introduce you to the world of tantra and etc. And that's like this exchange where we can grow, even if it's not a long-term thing. Or it could be, hey, we're both super creative, and you're a photographer, and I'm a whatever, and like let's get together and just be creative together and play music together and whatever. If we can see the people that we're dating as opportunities for us to be pulled forward in various different ways, I think that it brings a lot of value to our interactions with different people, women or men that we're dating, and it can remove that oh, there's no reason to even do this because it's not a long-term thing. And so that's been my shift around dating. I'd be curious what sort of approach you had to dating, because when you and Orica, because you're now in a divine union partnership that seems like you guys are probably at a point where have talked about kids and long-term and all of this stuff. I'd be curious if you had taken an approach like that to dating, or if it was different for you.
Totally. I mean, this is a great question. You know, when I met her, I was taking a year break, and I was like 9 or 10 months in to like, I don't want a long-term relationship. I had lovers, and that was clear and upfront, and, you know, just like, you know, situationships is kind of the new term I've been hearing.
Yeah.
And that was great. That was working for me really well. And so when I met her, I was in that mode, but very quickly, like within 2 weeks of meeting up in Costa Rica, it was very clear like this was different. And so I wasn't like hardlining like, okay, I'm gonna finish the year. It was like month 10 of that experiment. I was like, oh, okay, this is different. And we had like radically open conversations at the very beginning, and we were both kind of like, yeah, we do want long-term partnership, and this feels really good, so let's explore that. And then, you know, for me as the masculine, I was leading, and I was kind of like, hey, like if we're gonna do this, then, you know, I invited her to Texas, invited her to Austin, and she came, she followed my lead, and then we started really going deeper, and that's how it's been building since. And so I think the flexibility and the like adaptation of just owning that you do want that, and that's in the cards, and being as clear up front as possible, because a lot of people I've worked with, they actually want the long-term dating, or they don't. They actually don't. They're not ready for it at all. But they'll get into the opposite relationship, right? Like vice versa. They'll stay casual when they want deep, or they want to just actually stay casual, and that's what served them, but they agreed to go deep anyway. And this is one of the biggest issues I see, is like people don't even know what they want, and they're not willing to set boundaries or hold a container of what they want. And so that to me is the art, right? That's the game, that's the science. And it's hard, right? Because we want to fulfill other people's expectations, and we also don't want to hurt people's feelings. And so there's a real tricky line there.
This is the interesting thing. And what's up, Charles? Thank you. I appreciate it, buddy. So this is the thing that I had a friend, he's just become single, and he started to date. And he had this situation where he's gone on 2 dates with a woman. They've kissed, but not even like a real makeout, like just kissed. And the other day, we were at a group event. And there was a walking each other to the car at the end. And then there was like a kiss on the cheek and then a goodbye. And he gets back in the car, and then we process for the next hour. He's like, what the hell was that? Why was there no more polarity? Where did the sexual, why a kiss on the cheek, like what happened there? And I shared with him, he has not ever been with this type of woman before, meaning a woman who's very soft, takes it very slow, is not overtly bringing her sexual energy. And he's used to women who are much more forward and going in very quickly, right? And he said, it doesn't feel good in my system to be sitting here in the car, like wondering what just happened. And is it my fault as the masculine for like, should I have just kissed her? Should I? And there's a lot of mental, and I hope women understand, men obsess over this stuff just as much as women do, just for
Yeah.
And what I shared with him is, this is actually what dating is. Dating is not the process of trying to find your long-term partner. That is not how I view dating. Dating is the process by which you get to experience yourself reflected in different archetypes and see how you respond to those different archetypes. And you're going to see parts of you that you don't like. You're going to see parts of you that you do like. Ideally, the parts of you that you don't like, you can start to release and move through and then start to embody a way of being that's more aligned and feels more good for yourself. And oh, by the way, as you do that, you're going to attract ultimately the person that is more aligned for you at a deeper level. But that's, again, the byproduct of that work. And so what I was reflecting to him was that even though he didn't feel good about it, ultimately, this is what dating is. To sit here and go, wow, the fact that I didn't kiss her doesn't feel good in my system. Oh, why did I not kiss her? Because I wasn't clear about what our container actually is. I wasn't sure if that was okay or not. Great. So the solution is not just kiss the girl every time. The solution is be more clear with the containers you set, so you're not wondering if you should kiss her or not. And then you can move forward and not be in the same experience. And so that's one example of how the shift of mindset around dating and what the purpose of dating is, for me, has made all of the difference. Because now I view every interaction in dating as being in a personal development workshop. You know, it's my evolution. And I'm like you, bro, I'm a geek for personal development. So if dating's a personal development workshop, I'm geeking out of it. I'm enjoying it, as opposed to last year when I did what you did, which was no relationship for a year. But I was hardcore about it. I was like, absolutely no relationship for a year. I just had situationships. And it's just such a huge difference to take that perspective shift, in my opinion.
Totally. I'm curious what you think about this idea, because I'm doing this interview series. I'm interviewing all these big people in the relationship space, and specifically some of the powerful feminine leaders I've been interviewing. They make a distinction between dating and courtship. So dating is more of the casual. It's like, okay, it could be a situationship, could be a lovership. Maybe it leads to that long-term alignment. But courtship, for this model, is you're really going in, and this person feels compatible, and courtship leads to long-term relationships, as opposed to dating, which is casual and maybe you're not as upfront about what you want. I'm curious what you think about that.
I think ultimately it's semantics. Do you know what I mean? Some people say they hate dating. They hate dating. So what about the number of women where, like, that narrative, where are all the conscious men? I'm like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? Where are all the conscious men? They're out there. Absolutely. I know, because I have a bunch of single, amazing male friends. Absolutely. I'm a single dude. I think that I'm a pretty amazing guy to be in partnership with. In fact, I would say that I'm more programmed for partnership than anything else. But if I hear a woman say there are no good conscious men out there, I already know that she's taking a perspective into dating that is going to make it harder for her to find the person that she would ultimately want to be with. And right. I think that whether we call it, the idea of calling it courtship Sure, I like it. Maybe just because it removes the charge around dating for a lot of people. I'm curious if you think, because I think that Tinder and Instagram and all of that has really changed the dating landscape so drastically
100%.
in a way where before dating apps and before Instagram, the amount of potential partners you met were a fraction of what you're meeting now. And I think
Right.
that it also leads to option paralysis. It leads to this mental idea. It's like, well, she doesn't really do this, so I'm going to move on because there's a million other ones. And we don't sit through that first initial sort of awkwardness. Was there any awkwardness between you and Orca? Like initially, were there like awkward moments, or did it flow so easily and that was part of how you knew that you wanted to date so quickly?
I mean, honestly, it flowed so well, it almost like confronted me. I was like, oh, fuck, like she's checking all the boxes, and it was kind of confronting because I wasn't prepared for that. I was like on tour, I was just leaving Bali after being there during the whole pandemic, and I was just like, yeah, it was very confronting. There actually was barely any awkwardness. I mean, the most awkward part was the first and second date was just dinners where it was like radical honesty. This is what I want, this is what I'm available for, this is where I'm at, just everything on the table. And like we could feel each other kind of being like, oh shit, like, there's so much truth here. But that also was the biggest turn on. It was just like, wow, this is so free, and like we're not playing any fucking games. And what's funny is like and she loves to tell this story, she expected me to make the move sooner, like to actually initiate physical contact, even just like touching her a little bit, or like when we were leaving and going to and from the dates. And I'm a Virgo. I'm quite actually conservative, and I don't go in for physicality until I really feel ready. And so I thought that was funny because she was like expecting me to just kind of like touch her and kiss her and claim her, and I didn't do that until the actual third date. So there's some awkwardness in that when it's like you mentioned earlier with your friend, who makes the first move, who initiates and escalates first, which I do think is the masculine's role, and that usually succeeds really well. But yeah,
I love the framework. I love the framework of desires, fears, and boundaries that they teach at ISTA.
Yep.
Had that conversation with every single interaction since I learned it. Every single interaction that I've had before it becomes physical in any way, shape, or form, I want to have that conversation. And for those people listening, desires, fears, and boundaries is literally that. You express what your desires are, like, oh, I want to have sex, or I want to court you, or like whatever that is. Your fears of what that fear might be. I'm afraid that one of the fears that I've expressed when doing this is I've had a number of women where it became physical, and then it was suddenly, even though they knew I was unavailable for partnership, it became, I want partnership, right? And that has led to a fear a lot of times of, can I actually engage intimately and do that in a good way? Can this woman hold that? So that's a fear that I've expressed when having this conversation. And then boundaries, like a boundary could be anything. What's an example? A boundary is, I'm available until this time tomorrow morning. Like if you were to stay the night, I have work, so that's a boundary. I need my space by then. Or a boundary might be, hey, I am unavailable to have actual penetrative sex, right? That's a boundary. That, or we use a condom, that's a boundary. Whatever it is. So desires, fears, and boundaries has been such a good framework, and I think men get to be the ones who would initiate that more.
Yeah.
One, the masculine really is meant to set the container.
Yeah.
And that by setting the container, men who are on here, you create safety for the woman. And ultimately, a woman opens when she feels safe. We all do, ultimately, but a woman
Right.
open when she feels safe. And when a woman opens, that's when she becomes a oracle, a deeper portal to the divine, which therefore the type of sex that you want to have in a conscious way is going to alchemize at such a deep level where your experience is transcendental. But that doesn't just happen. That happens when the woman is able to open her portal of creation to the divine, and she can only do that when she feels safe. And the masculine needs to set that safety of the container. And so why men don't do that is because they're afraid that they will lose the woman.
Right.
That's ultimately what it is wow, if I tell her that I'm not available for partnership, she's not going to want to continue to see me.
Right.
And that is scary. But that is why so many dudes wind up in this stereotype. Women do it too, but the stereotype of men who sleep with women, and then they're like, yeah, I'm kind of like done. And then they move away from it because they wanted to have sex and they weren't willing to risk losing out. And that is what that means is the act of sex is further implementing their fear.
Right.
They're now having sex with fear as a part of it because they weren't willing to have that conversation. For me, I need to have the conversation first because I want to know that our sexual encounter is actually in the same shared reality, which is going to allow both of us to open more deeply. And it doesn't matter if it's one night, 1 week, 1 year, whatever. That's what I want. I want depth of connection and intimacy no matter what. And the funny thing is, Kevin, like I'm not having that much sex. Like it's just not something that I'm not actually sure the last time that I had sex, to be honest with you. I'll probably have to, it's something I would actually have to think about it. And so, but I don't feel incomplete. I don't feel incomplete in that way.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with that when I do have sex, it is so deep and profound because of all the reasons we were just talking about.
Yeah, I love that. And this is going to make you more successful at dating when holding the boundaries as the masculine, holding the container. And also the sex is going to be better because you're not, it's not fueled on fear and, what you were speaking to. And I'm curious for you, Adam, I know we had this conversation maybe a couple of years ago, but let's say you meet a woman super compatible. You're just like, oh shit, I'm feeling different. Do you want a woman who's like you in terms of coach, influencer, entrepreneur? Or are you more interested in a woman that's maybe not doing your line of work?
I have a list of 38 things of what I want in my queen. I have a list of 38 things that I want in my queen. And I don't know if it's number 1 or number 2, but it's way at the top. She doesn't have a personal brand. She does not have a brand.
Why is that?
Because I am someone who has a personal brand, and my personal brand will only continue to grow, right? As I continue to release more podcasts. For those of you who don't know, the Deep Dive podcast, Kevin was on it this week. So check the link in my bio. We asked the question, did spirituality ruin romantic partnership? So go check it out.
Right.
And so as every podcast that I release, there's more people that come into the ecosystem. Every post, every whatever. I'm going back on tour in November, doing some live events in Phoenix and Austin and New York. And so that's going to grow. There are a lot of aspects to having a personal brand that aren't awesome. Let's say that. They're
a lot of work.
They're a lot of work. And one of the things is I do need to be on my phone a bit more. I do need to make stories about my life and share it and make podcasts and go out and do events and stuff. I want to come home to someone who's not filming me. Guess who's home? Look who it is. I don't want her to have a gift for my birthday and she's Instagram live me undoing my gift.
Right.
And I don't want when I'm around people who are on their phones a lot, I'm on my phone more. And I want to be with someone who's never on their phone. And therefore, I actually am going to be on my phone less, except when I really have to.
Right.
Those sorts of things are why I want that. And I've also gotten clear that I want someone who is a Magdalene archetype. So you know what I mean?
Beautiful.
Someone who really understands, a woman who really understands that the work that I'm doing takes a ridiculous amount of energy and effort, an incredible amount of energy and effort. And I would love a woman who feels like they get fulfillment in supporting that effort. And when you say that, it's funny because as I say that, I can feel the part of me that's worried that people on this Instagram are going to think I'm part of the patriarchy that wants a subservient woman or something like that. And it's not that at all. It's understanding that having a queen who can take care of the nest and can take care of the castle and can actually see when I come back from being on tour how much I need to be recharged in order to continue to do that, to me is something that I want. It's something that I want. And a lot of women in today's day and age where there's this rising feminine power and have this idea that they need their own thing and they need to be the boss babe and this thing that's happening in the community. And I think that there's something absolutely beautiful on either side. When there's a man who comes in and says, babe, your vision is so big, I'm here in support of that. And that fulfills me to be in support of your vision. Or a woman who sees a man who has a big vision and creating big impact and can actually feel fulfillment and not feel less than by being in support and nurturing of that. And my vision now becomes our vision that we're a part of with different roles. And so I've gotten clear that I want that archetype, and that's become really hard. That's become more and more rare to find women who actually want to be in that in this day and age where women are reclaiming and not even because they want it, bro. Do you know how how many women have you met? Because I've been talking a while. How many of you, how many women do you meet who you feel like are building their thing, not because they really want to, but they feel like that's what they're supposed to do?
It's so common. And Adam, this is what's crazy. And I totally get this, like, call it traditional roles, but it's actually symbiotic. Is the masculine holding the vision, going out to war, like you said, the queen holding down the castle, holding the home. It's also going to make a great mother. And that dynamic is so beautiful. And here's the funny thing. Most of my one-on-one clients have been entrepreneur women, straight up. And most of the friends, in the Austin community, here in the Bali community, most of the women, even if they're super successful as coaches or healers or whatever, and they have their own business, have their own brand, what they almost all say, I would say 90%, is I want to stop all this and just be in my feminine and be a mother and be in support. So what's funny is even the ones that aren't enacting this currently, or maybe they're dating, whatever, they want it underneath. And I'm curious how many women on this live, actually feel that, even if you are running a business, whatever. They want that too, because that's actually where they're going to feel the most feminine and relaxed and juicy, is when they're supporting a man, a king with a strong vision. And this, some women would fight this and say, yeah, this is bullshit. I want to be independent. I want to have my own money. I want to do my own thing. And it's like, cool, maybe that works for you. Maybe you need a man that doesn't have a strong vision then, if you want to hold that pillar. Yeah. Which to me causes a lot of problems a lot of the time.
And what's interesting about this and why I think it's gotten so distorted is that, I said that weird, huh? Distorted. The reason why I think it's gotten so distorted is that men have had women who have done this. They've literally had women who have done this for a while. And what men have failed to do, and I want us as men to take ownership of this, is recognize that the nurturing and that Magdalene energy that feeds us to go out to war and create that vision and go and hunt and go and do that thing, we also need to bring a portion of that back into the worship of our woman.
Yeah.
That is something that men have failed to do. They're like, oh, great, this is amazing. This woman supports me and she takes care of the house and all of this stuff. And then I'm going to go out and do this, all of this, and then come back and expect to be nurtured and nourished. And then I'm going to go out and do this thing. And all of that nurturing and nourishment is actually just being given to everyone else, but not being back to the woman who's providing that nurturing and that nourishment. And men need to understand that, listen, your primary is to be nurtured and nourished by that woman and bring that back to her in a way where she feels so fucking seen and honored and worshiped that she can open more and love more and receive more and feel so sexually fulfilled and charged and all of that, that she continues to nurture and nourish. And that's what we mean by giving from the overflow. The overflow of my relationship now becomes what I give to the world.
Right.
If I'm unwilling to make that sacrifice and say, well, my overflow is what goes back into my relationship, well, then that's a trap, because this out here is so much bigger that there's no end to, oh, I feel so charged up, I'm just going to create another business. I feel so charged up, I'm just going to go and do more tours or more whatever. You start by recognizing this woman will show up and feed you and nourish you and nurture you and fuck you and all of it. And that fulfillment and that Magdalene energy becomes a toroidal that you feed back into her, and you massage her and you run her baths and you cook for her when she's had a long day, and you love up on that woman so that she has the energy to even give that back to you. And from that, you are now able to radiate the overflow back out into the world. I think that men have gotten that backwards, and they're thinking to themselves, their highest priority is building their shit, and they'll bring whatever's left over back to the relationship, and there's never anything left over.
Yeah, I mean, this is the classic hunter-gatherer dynamic, right? And Esther Perel, who's an amazing thinker on this, she talks about how most men bring the crumbs home, right? So they're Mr. Magnetic, crushing it, corporate, whatever, entrepreneur, and they bring the crumbs home to the relationship and wonder why it's not fulfilled. And I think on the flip side, a lot of women, they're not giving their best energy to their man, right? If they're doing a business in vision, it's kind of that inversion again, where they're bringing crumbs home from their feminine nurturing side. And like you're saying, with the Magdalene, Yeshua template or the Sacred Union template, you create a superconductor. Because if you make each other the priority, and especially like communication, emotion, sexuality, deep intimacy, and spiritual connection, you're both going to have so much overflow and so much power in your own dynamic and union that will actually, from the inside out instead of outside in, fulfill your vision and purpose. And I think you're absolutely right. A lot of men get to step up and really own this, especially a lot of the men I know, and that they haven't been satisfied in relationship because they've never actually brought that level of protection and providence and intention back home to the woman, right? And this is the idea of making a woman the oracle. And I'm curious for you, like, yes, you want to find a woman without a personal brand. Does that mean that you're going to have to not find her on Instagram or at, conferences, masterminds, or mainly you're going to meet women in your field, right?
To be honest with you, I don't know, man. What I realized recently, and I'm going to have to wrap up here shortly.
Cool.
What I recently realized is that I had a part of me that was so, after the year of not being in relationship, there was a part of me that deeply felt ready for my queen. And I was longing for her. I remember I was in a ceremony down in Peru just in May where the medicine asked me, what do you want? And I said, my queen. That's what I want. And the unraveling of that desire I realized was because the highest highs I've ever had in my life, like the happiest moments in my life, most of them have been in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Periods of time where I felt most content with my life have been when I've been in relationship. And I didn't have very many reference points for like the highs on my own. And so it makes sense that I would want relationship because that's where I've seen I can be the happiest. I have since gotten to a place where I'm having so much fun, and it's not even about sex, man. Like I told you, I actually don't remember the last time I've had sex. You're going to make me, after this is done, actually think about that. And what I am doing is having so much fun in the personal development of dating and the confidence that comes from not needing a woman and the clarity that comes from everything we've been talking about of yes, what am I looking for, et cetera, and not having the pressure of needing to find that right away. All of that is now giving me opportunities to experience life and new highs, really epic, what is the word? When we talk about flow state, the highs, what those are called, peak moments.
Peak state, yeah.
Yeah, peak state moments. And having the more and more of those moments single is making me need the relationship less. And
right.
So that's been
which will attract it faster, probably.
Yeah, and so for me, I have sort of a idea in my head, which is if you meet someone that you're going to have babies with and you're going to spend the rest of your life with, let's just say that that's the case, you actually spend the vast majority of your life in that partnership. So that's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever. You will never look back and regret spending 3 years, 4 years, 5 years single. As long as you're enjoying that, you will never regret it. Because this is the minority aspect of your life, not the majority of it. And so that's allowed me to kind of just surrender. The timing of it, I don't know. But if I were to guess, Kevin, I would say that I don't think she's too far down the line. I think that she's probably closer than I realize. But I'm not counting the days. It'll happen when it happens. You'll know, because I'll be all in and I'll be stoked. But until then, I just want to have as much fun as I possibly can.
Fuck yeah, brother. It's a good word. And I'm excited to meet her, and I'm excited to re-meet you in that fulfilling, super powerful union. And how that's going to actually just like change the way you do everything, right? Your creativity, your work, your poetry, your art. I think it's going to be a huge turning point for you. So let's hold that vision for you. And brother, so grateful for you coming on again. Deep Dive Podcast, y'all. Head on over to his page, Adam Rower, at the Deep Dive, and go listen to our episode. It has spirituality ruined dating. That episode is a great one if you love this. And yeah, brother, I'm excited to see you in California or Austin later this year.
Yeah, there's a link in my bio if you want to listen to the podcast that we did. We dive in for an hour, and it's absolute fire, all about spirituality and dating, because there's so much. It's fucked up. Like there's so much stuff that
it's wild out there.
Yeah. My course on breakups, The Art of Breaking Up, is going to come out in October. So if you're not on my newsletter or whatever, pay attention, because if you're going through a breakup or are struggling to move on, that's a big one. And Kevin, I know you got your course coming out. Thank you for being in this work, bro. I love having conversations with you, man. I'm excited for when we're in person again, whenever that is. And I remember when you, me, and Luke were out in Austin, and it's always such a good time. So thanks for having me on, and hope to connect soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it, brother. Thank y'all for listening. Share this out if you've gotten value. There's so much here. Tag somebody who needs to hear this. And until next time, see you, brother.
Later.